Yes, welcome. Ida, this is the Global Digest. We are think tank group. We are doing advocacy about global issue and democracy, liberal democracy, all these human rights issue. We are discussing with the expert and scholar from around the world, and you're one of our special guests and you are expert. So we are going to publish our discussion as a podcast, and it is a privilege your contribution to the public. So please, for starting our discussion, why don't you introduce our audience about your organization and what you are doing at the moment? Please, Ida.
Hi, good morning. My name is Arda, and I currently do a few things. I have a full-time regular job that I do, but aside, I really don't have an organization set up per se. I just really enjoy commenting and blogging about changes, about political changes that are happening in the world and what can be better done whenever I see something that can be better done. So I'm just there to contribute and seek out and find interesting ways of connecting with people.
Right, it's a privilege to talk with you. And you may see our podcast. We have a several discussion about international politics and global crisis, including Ukraine and other country crisis. In Asia Pacific, we are talking about especially Coup in Burma and Asia Society for Liberal Democracy issue. I guess Canada is part of Asia Pacific region, right? You are connected with Pacific Ocean. So Canada is part of Asia Pacific region. So you are not away from our Asia Pacific region. You have to be involved in Asia Pacific region. So especially you may aware about military coup in Burma since 2001, January 1st day. It's already over a year, and a lot of ten of thousand innocent were in trouble. They were shot to kill, and 100,000 are fled, and million are fled the country, and they escape for their safety. Some are in the middle, in the jungle. Some are in the neighboring country, and some able to go to other country. So that is a current crisis, and especially uh, the churches and the Christian pastor, hundreds of persecuted and destroyed churches and barns is done under military coup. So I've been discussing with several scholars, experts, activists, and whoever interested in Burmese coup about how we can interfere in Burmese crisis, how international society can involve, interfere, and support, because now the world attention is going to the just Ukraine, but Burmese is very much big issue. Even before Ukraine crisis, Burma was already, military coup. We are under crisis. Until now, Ukraine case may be finished soon because of international support and a kind of a lot of involvement and a deal. It may be easier to solve in Ukraine crisis, but Burmese crisis, nobody pay attention. So we are arguing why nobody pay attention. What about Canada government and Canada people? How much they pay attention or they don't pay attention? Can you a little bit elaborate us about your situation.
Oh, actually, it's interesting because not only um, do I notice that all of a sudden Ukraine is getting a lot of attention,
Right,
but even certain areas like Lebanon previously that had, um, you know, the catastrophic bomb that, detonation that went off at their port. And again, this kind of got sidelined by media when we all started talking about COVID,
right,
and it's like they got foreshadowed, and you never heard anything again. And it was up to, I guess, the people to raise awareness. And I've actually been noticing recently that a lot more individual people have been posting videos, and individual people have been, showing that, media has not been covering these
right,
issues and bringing media to the people, from the people, as opposed to, and starting to do it in masses to overshadow some of the mainstream media that has been taking over and only focusing on certain issues on a longer term basis. Um, Now, a lot of us might not know that smaller countries exist
right.
because they
How much
focus on
small?
larger countries and those larger bodies and the partners that Canada has. They focus upon on a global and political, um, if they have political interest in those countries, they tend to focus on them. And I think that they need to start taking into consideration that
Right,
there are more countries, there are smaller countries, there are economic countries. Um, for example, I wrote a small article on during COVID. I had been, searching online. Everybody's interested in stats. Where in the world is COVID increasing? And Google had an entire map of, the world, and you could just type in, Spain, how many COVID
right.
uh, incidences. But I noticed that North Korea was not in those statistics when I
Yeah,
looked into it. And
inaccessible. Information is inaccessible.
yeah, it was like they basically skipped the country and didn't offer statistics, but South Korea they did. And so I did a little bit further research, and I found out about the trouble between South Korea and North Korea, and that North Korea was being completely overshadowed. And then I did some research on statistics and, how what was the quality of living, and I found out they were in dire straits, in poverty, hardly making it, not able to eat. Just it was a very it was very stunning how we leave these countries behind and not include them in the big global, diaspora. There are countries out there that need our help so so
Definitely.
so badly, and we just don't have them on the mainstream. They are, again, in the foreground because they're not economically feasible, or someone hasn't you know um,
Yes. North Korea is not
I,
a democratic country. It's authoritarian countries.
yeah, or business owner hasn't been able to you know uh, pinch interest, or been able to change the social, or political viewpoints of a country
Right.
um, enough so the people suffer. I mean, it's weird. I have to say, when I was also looking at Russia, I was noticing that um, not at the forefront, media is, reporting Russia's bad and Russia's bombing and Russia's doing all this stuff. But in the meantime, like in the background, um, Russian people have been also suffering, and apparently food availability is scarce there as well, is what
Right.
I have been reading. And
It's shortage.
yeah, and the the I don't know what you want to call him. I don't know if you call him a president or if they call him like just a leader, but in you know I can't comment too much, but they they already have reached out for help, and on numerous levels nobody's helping, and that's a bit scary because this is also our generation that is growing up, and we need to also find our space in society, and how we can reach out and how we can help, like you said in your introduction, that we need to be able to be more active in a process of making the change and stopping war, and trying to find ways to come to peaceful solutions that benefit everyone.
Do
And
you have any idea Canadian government position on Burmese crisis? Any response by Canadian government?
I've heard zero. I've heard nothing. You know what? Up until now, I don't want to say it, but I have not even heard this country exists. I did not know.
You don't know about Burma?
No,
I
I
see.
don't. I've heard nothing in the mainstream media. Um,
In
it's been
Canada, no mainstream media. You never heard
well,
about Burma.
there I haven't personally heard. Now, again, I have not been as active in listening to the mainstream media recently, so I'm not sure if there has been some, current reportings of it, but in
Maybe you heard about Ukraine crisis all the time.
all the time, yes, of course, it's at the forefront. It's at the forefront. Um, I
So
just think that
that's something unfair about media, mainstream media or any social media in Canada
but
because they pay attention very much on Ukraine, but
mhm,
Burmese crisis is equally with the Ukraine crisis. Even the casualty are more in Ukraine, and the brutal by the military dictator are very
mhm,
stronger, and refugees are much difficult for uh, to go to safety place or to go to any border or other country. Ukraine, even compared to Ukraine, Burma is more uh, difficult. But media did not pay attention or something wrong in the international system or something wrong with the global system. So uh, I guess Canadian people should know the real situation about Burmese crisis.
I would like to add something. Um, I think the reason why we haven't heard of it is that Canadian media, when I look at the large perspective, they only focus on the biggest issues, the largest countries,
I see.
the um longest term effects. I mean, they focused on Syria for a little while, and we imported or, as provided refugee status to a lot of Syrians that were
Maybe
going
they are
through that.
focusing more about recent and short-term issue, Ukraine
Mm.
issue maybe immediately
Yeah.
need to involve and to solve it. Burmese case,
Is
they feel they can skip. It's still a big crisis, but Burmese crisis, I going to political science, we can say the Burmese crisis we have to deal for more about long-term planning, long-term, solving the crisis in case of
yeah,
Burma, like the liberal democracy versus authoritarian, that issue. So
right. And
it's also a regional issue in Asia because our liberal democracy in Asia are weakening. That's also affect vice versa. The Burmese military coup, why authoritarian country become increasing in the region, why
right,
liberal democracy become decreasing. Those things are not short-term program. It should be long-term program. So Asia Pacific region, we need to aware it is very dangerous for the future. If we are weaker, we are going to lose. Canada will lose definitely because of you are, correlated. We are in the same region and same, uh, crisis we will face sooner or later. So that is really
yeah. I mean, we are affected. We're always affected by, um, the Asian economy, and I mean, you guys provide a lot of the supplies, uh, manufacturing, um, customization of uh, all sorts of product, and even our food now almost it's all heavily imported into Canada, and it's like we are partially your global partner in
right.
that. um, I I was going to suggest that more people write articles about what specifically is going on. I think that a lot more people need to realize that they can write about these topics, but they need to share. And if you keep your voices small and you talk with only one person, you don't write an article, you don't share it online. Most people now are online, and that's where the impact is, because if you write a good article, someone will share it. Did you know, like, that this is happening on the other side of the world? I have been finding those little articles online myself and
Are
trying to
you
really.
are you dealing with a media issue or basically what is your activity? It's not media.
No, I don't think I'm specifically going to blame mainstream media, because uh, it has to impact on a larger scale. They need to focus on the things that are most important or that are more at the forefront. And I don't blame them for focusing on these topics because they are major topics. But what I would like to see more of is more international networking. Um, I know that they have some international, like, talk about mainstream issues, but they're missing smaller countries. There's smaller coverage of less economically
Right.
feasible countries, um, or less politically interesting countries, that they're
Convenient,
basically sticking out on.
convenient, flexible country, it will be easier for them to deal with them. So
Yeah,
Burmese case is very, limbo position. Burmese military may very inconvenient or is not flexible in the international state. They
right.
always, shut down or they always block related to international system. because
Right.
the authoritarians are increasing. Sometimes they always propaganda against Western country or something like that. They never want to do development. Let the international people understand or let to adapt into international society to live living together with international society. They never think about that. They want to be alone uh, at the you know international society. They don't care about the whole society. Even they don't care about their own Burmese people are living, Burmese people surviving. The dictator authoritarians are always like that. That is their behavior, their character. If you see in Burma, if you see in North Korea, many authoritarian are doing like that. They don't work, they don't care for the society welfare. They don't care for the society, you know, uh, prosperity and development. That's what we are facing. But those kind of authoritarian can reflect negative to the international society. That's why we
Yes.
have to deal, if increasing authoritarian in the region is not good at all for the
Mhm.
region, for region liberal democracy, free economy. Everything will be affected sooner or later. Example, Burmese drug, opium, and other drugs is spreading around the world. Many young people are killed in many countries. So we cannot ignore such kind of it's directly affecting every country, every society, every young
Yes.
people who are dying because of drugs. That's Burmese dictator system, the consequence of that system. So definitely we need to pay attention by the whole society, Canadian, American, European, Asian. We have to pay attention, definitely.
Right. I was gonna say that a lot of the that I have been noticing that Canadian interest usually goes to countries where they believe that they can interfere, but or believe that they can send their soldiers and get some sort of economic benefit from. And if the economic benefit or a partnership they don't feel like they can form, they sort of leave it, I believe, on the sidelines. And I mean, it's hard to change a thought process of one society. It's hard to
Of course,
change
I mean that is
purpose.
reasonable. Everybody want,
Right,
basic such thing, but uh, even without that, once it's happening, even
right,
without any you get any benefit uh, immediately, something you cannot ignore. It can be
right,
reflect to any country, like as I told you, drug. That
right.
is it. You may think that is not immediately benefit for interfering in
Of
Burma,
course.
but it is affecting society by drug example.
Could someone start by setting up a fundraiser to raise money to assist the people in having a better quality of life to begin with? I remember back in maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when our basically started to, I saw a bunch of, I guess, private companies start up these, I guess, almost sponsorship programs. And the sponsorship programs would go towards, purchasing of, animals, purchasing um, of, economically feasible ways for people to know or to reduce the amount of food insecurity in the region to begin with, to help alleviate some of the need for killing, some of the need of poverty, some of the, and instituting some education systems where, younger students were being educated before, they may be brainwashed into, um, other activities, um, simply put. And do you think that is something that would help this region from
Of course.
like a bottom up, maybe from a bottom up approach?
Of course, you mean definitely poverty reduction is all the time we have to do that, because all these economically poor country need such thing. But in case of Burma, recently what we need is because of the conflict, the crisis in Burma, first people immediately need humanitarian aid. Second, who are fighting for democracy, liberal democracy against military dictator. They don't have guns, They use their homemade gun. It's not good quality and it's not really gun. It is not effective to shoot the military dictator. So they need
Uh,
very good gun like machine gun or very rocket launcher, big one, and all these quality guns. So in that
uh,
way, they can fight back the military dictator. Then we can rebuild democracy in Burma. So definitely we need such kind of gun in Burma. So as you said,
would
what Burmese can yeah, that's a basic urgent thing we need in Burma.
but would there be why do you need access to guns? What could there not, is there no political process over there?
Because
Is there no
the people,
voting? Is there any voting system at all
of course,
within?
we did in 2020 elections. There was a democratic uh, election. It was won by, the political party, but the military disagree. They don't accept the election result. That's why they coup in 2021. So it's over a year. That is unacceptable. Without legitimate their military coup. That's why the people revolt the military dictator. That's why we need gun. We need a very good gun. A big gun is better to fight back the military dictator.
Do you think that a nearby country would be able to help and bring their military in
In case of
this area?
Ukraine case, Canada, America, European, they supply guns. They supply all kind of quality guns and big guns. So Ukrainian can fight back Russian invasions. But in Burmese case, we don't have a single gun supplied by
But why?
Canada or America or European. So we don't
Well,
receive any supply gun.
they're working on gun control here. You've spoken to me in a way that makes me upset because
Right.
I'm very, very much against guns and violence. I definitely understand the position that you're in and situation. But I feel like
we don't want to shoot the military, but it unjusted, they kill innocent people. They
is
very
there
cool politically illegitimate military. That's why
is there
we have reason
under,
to fight back.
understood, but is there not another way of doing this, of having another
No,
military presence from a neighboring country who might be able to, as opposed to shooting and retaliating and creating a retaliatory
right,
situation,
right.
being more of a security net?
We wish that we were asking several times international society and in the region, please intervene. There is a intervention, military intervention. UNS United Nations Security Council was dilemma. They could not able to make decision to intervene inside Burma and to military intervention. UN cannot make decision, and any individual country cannot able to make decision and not able to intervene. We are waiting long time to intervene by any neighbor country or even any international society enter and intervene in Burma and shoot them. But nobody are able to do that. Nobody are doing. That's why we are waiting and we are outcrying. At last, we have to shoot by ourselves. That's why we need gun.
Is there, I ask it again because I know you've repeated that you need guns.
Right.
Is there no way that on a small level you would be able to be part of international trade somehow? And, as opposed to, choosing to retaliate, to maybe focus on some sort of a clean business activity that may help you compensate. We're not sitting in the 1920s where we didn't have computers, or maybe we didn't have the outset where there's no resources or no globalization. Globalization is such a level right now that, I mean, I understand there's authoritarian, some authoritarian intervention, but it cannot be on a full level of intervention. I mean, if you stay in your home and you keep to yourself for a period of time and, work on what you need to work on a globalized level, find a gainful opportunity.
Sure,
Then
I'm contacting many businessmen and many activists, many people around the world who are willing and who want to support Burmese revolution against military, because at the moment state level are not working, Canadian government, US or European government are not, nobody involved, nobody supply a single gun. So state level at the moment is not working. So alternatively, how about private sector? Rich people, there are many in democratic country, rich people and many businessmen who can interest, then we can work with those private sector businessmen who they can support us, and maybe they can do some business as any relevant business in the
that I
future,
feel would be a better
or sometime
solution.
that they
Yes.
can do that, but they can urgently at the moment, we need the investment like gun or humanitarian aid, something like that. So we are requesting many international business society community to invest in this political crisis. Maybe why don't you all you try or you dedicate some time for us in Canada, any business or private sector who may interest to invest in Burmese crisis, revolution against military. They may able to supply or they may able to supply humanitarian aid, something like that.
Mm.
Why don't you try it?
So
You may
I
know a
think
lot of business
I
connection of things.
I personally do not vet for guns, and I don't vet for violence, and I don't vet for
You don't
retaliation.
want to, you
Uh,
know.
but what I do vet for is the ability for you guys to have a normal life, a normal ability to at least sustain yourselves while you figure the rest out. Um, there must be more people than there are military. This is obvious. There is more powerful. And if you become more economically stable, you do not need guns. You do not need
Definitely,
violence. We don't ultimately, those things, it doesn't help society. We just lose more lives.
definitely. We don't want to shoot, you know, the military and anybody. But
I don't
unjust
want to
case,
think of it as an option. I
yes,
don't. I don't think that we need to bring out more guns. We have enough. There is so much going on in this world right now
yes.
that
In the case of Burmese crisis, you know, the military, we have experienced over 50 years, the military rule in Burma. We have been done many times, gentlemen meeting, gentlemen discussion within the domestic and with the international society. Many countries did gentlemen discussion, meeting, and diplomacy. It's the gentleman talking, gentleman meeting with the junta military dictator. We have done many times, many group and many domestic actor and international actor. They deal with the regime, military regime. It's not working. They cannot talk gentlemen. They only afraid gun to gun. So that's the reason we are using guns. Otherwise, we want just finish with the gentleman talk. Let's do agreement. Let's do democratic in the democratization in the country. Let's rebuild the country with the gentleman talk. But it's not working. We have
but
done 50 years. It's not working.
I was just looking online just now on our government website. June 20th, 2022, Canada announces development, peace, and security projects for Bangladesh and Myanmar. They just announced 206.75 million in development assistance funding for projects in Myanmar and the District of Bangladesh, and 2.6 million in funding for independent investigative mechanism for Myanmar through the Peace and Stabilization Operations Program. And it says that it's going to help responding to the Rohingya and the Myanmar crises.
Right. It is
So
a Rohingya genocide crisis. Yesterday night,
yes,
the ICJ decided the case submitted for Rohingya genocide cases. They admitted even though military regime in Burma, they reject the admission of the genocide in the ICJ, but yesterday the court ruled out it can be admitted. So that's the follow-up. I think Canadian government is helping to investigate the genocide, Rohingya genocide case in Burma. So that
I
that
think,
is that is one cases, right?
yeah. Now I know that I do know that Myanmar has had extensive coverage in main media, specifically um, in terms of mostly women's issues and the rights of women and girls, and those who are marginalized and conflict um, affected or vulnerable in the area. And and they said here that they're aiming to innovate in areas such as environmental protection, community development projects, healthcare services, and in new partnerships and collaborations. So there may be some business ability, but it seems like there is some action aid. Here we go. There's an Action Aid International. It says supporting democratic action in Myanmar. And they're putting in $4.6 million. It says to support local civil society groups, journalists, researchers, and media organization to improve service delivery and support democracy and nonviolent advocacy in Myanmar, especially considering the recent military coup. It is based on a three-pillar approach that builds the capacity of individuals and civil society organizations to advocate and deliver services, strengthens networks and the resiliency of democratic movements, and supports gender responsive pro democracy, women led research to support long term development. So, in a nutshell, it looks like we are doing um, some investigative work as well. And it looks like they will be persecuting perpetrators of international crimes,
Right.
law committed since 2011. So that's the most the most recent information, and it's only 1 month old. I mean, we're in July right now. So help is on the way. Do you need guns and violence? Maybe not. Maybe your region, with the input or the output that our government is providing you with, it looks like most of that money is going to be going towards um, those women's issues and helping women to grow, helping you know the leadership, the um, to remove some of the oppression that you guys have been having in your region for so many years, the violence that you have been experiencing for so many years, and
Right.
maybe putting those who are, most at risk.
Right.
Perfect.
Group. I'm not armed group. I
Right.
never fight as armed group. I am just a scholar and activist. It's a non-violence. I mean, I'm never involved in arms group. So that is my position. However, in this Burmese current crisis, we are in the middle, where even you want or you don't want, uh, we cannot pull out our crisis because it was started already in last year. The Aung
Right.
San Suu Kyi government her party NLD and her members, member of parliaments and her senior members and many of their politicians after after they cannot make gentleman agreement with military group, the Aung San Suu Kyi
Right.
government,
Right.
Aung San Suu Kyi and the senior member were arrested by military, and subsequently her party, member of parliament, and all these politicians, they uh, started against military with guns. They introduced gun. They introduced gun by Aung San Suu Kyi, all
Right.
party members, and all these politicians. I my if in that time I won't suggest to use gun because I already know the politics in Burma as I am scholar, as political scientist. I know about Burmese case 50 years. It is not a solution. Even they don't have any preparation and they don't have any, plan. Just emotionally, they use gun. Those Aung San Suu Kyi party,
Right.
NLD party, they use gun and they introduce to the civilian and villager and town everywhere across the country.
But
So
that
it was
is
conflict the whole country till
but
now.
that is illegal. But that is illegal, and that's international. Those people will be persecuted. They need to be pointed out to the Canadian government or the Canadian forces when they come to interfere. They are the ones that will put the justice system back in place. This is not for the civilians to do. The civilians will be part of the new democratic process to try and reinstill a better government system. I, I don't believe that civilians should be carrying guns. One gun and one shot will result in further retaliation. It will result in more lives being lost. Do you want to risk that for your next generation? Do you want to? This you have to ask
Definitely,
yourself the question. I
definitely,
know
I agree very much
at a
with you.
certain point you feel like you can feel that you're giving up hope, but hang on because again the you were telling me earlier in this podcast that you didn't feel like you had anything to look forward to, and and our government is coming. And I know that the interference of our government in
Small
the
piece of Canadian
it's
support.
not it's not a simple process. Okay, it's not an overnight fix, but to start the beginnings and you know um, end part of the repression that you have been feeling in your area, and offering support to especially women in your area, um, is really the beginnings of something that will have a future, and it's going to be sustainable. And you just have to believe that right now until things get better. You just have to believe.
I
Don't
agree. I
Please don't
agree.
think
I
guns
agree
are a
with you.
solution. They will not be a solution for your area. And if our government interferes now and needs to interfere again to try and create that peaceful atmosphere and try to reinstill a proper government, and not an authoritarian government, but democracy, which means that it's power for people as opposed to power for, you know, a single arbitrary and singular authoritative you know, direction. I know that
I agree
that
with you very much
change.
about you oppose gun, you strongly oppose gun. I agree with you. As I explained you, since 2021 February, after military coup, they arrested Aung San Suu Kyi and NLD party senior member. So Aung San Suu Kyi government, her party and her senior party and a member of parliament across the country, they organize guns, violent guns, revolt by guns. So that is, they did it without any preparation and without any political foreseeing. As according to political science, I don't agree. At the beginning, I been critic, very much strongly critic. You may see all my podcasts at the beginning. I'm very critical about guns because without any preparation and without any foreseeing political in the region and in the international system, they already did. So we cannot, pull out, or we cannot put inside, or it's in the middle. So that is a Burmese situation. So now there is nothing to say about we like or dislike gun, but because they already in the middle, we cannot
Right.
pull out anymore because in the
Well,
middle. So that's why I've been telling you we need guns to finish the military regime because there is no way to pull out at the
you have
moment.
a you have
Pull
you
out any.
have no, but you have a mediator coming.
You want me? You want us
The
to pull out?
Canadian government, no, the Canadian government is a mediator. They will come in and take out the people who are not supposed to be
No,
in
the one,
power.
the fund in you recently talking about the fund that is for Rohingya genocide issue. The fund is for
Yeah.
genocide, but it's not about the Burmese democratization. I mean, current revolution against military, not the whole country issue. The fund is not for that. The fund is only for genocide cases, ICJ
No,
cases.
it's not. No, it's not. The fund is not for just ICG
No,
cases.
it's related to ICJ case,
Well, yeah,
genocide case
it
of
is.
Rohingya.
But there's also, I did see another spot, peace and stabilization for persecutions of perpetrators of most serious international crimes
Of
since
course, that is
2011.
Rohingya case, Rohingya genocide case, because it's too broad, The issue is too broad in Burma, in Myanmar. It's too broad. They are just doing one piece,
Yeah.
genocide case. That also part of peace and stability, but it is too broad. It's very huge.
Understand.
So I mean, Canada is not covering the whole things.
Well,
They are
listen,
focusing on the Rohingya genocide case. They are single out that case.
I understand what you're saying because you have raised a very good point because the coverage of the funding is not complete for,
Right.
it's only, starting. Maybe it's a starting point for the Canadian government. I do not know.
Maybe they are only
But
pay for that genocide case. Not
maybe,
they may not.
maybe.
They have no plan to pay any
Well,
other
but
issue.
equality in your area and a more democratic system may assist, the region with getting back on its feet.
It requires big, huge amount of
Of
funds,
course.
It
Of
requires
course.
billions of money because it's too broad if we covering the whole country case. It's too broad. That Canadian government at the moment, they are funding is a piece of the case. It's a single out Rohingya genocide case. So, I mean, that will nothing change about Burmese military coup and military regime in the country. So it won't change anything. So we have to do many things. We need to effort many things. Of
I
course,
think
we need
maybe
your support, your Canadian people support.
I think you need also to contact the humanitarian aid that is coming to somehow ask them those questions and see what they have to say. Because if you cannot talk to your own government, you still need to talk to somebody. And
Right,
if
right,
you're able to contact them, you may have a route or some other ideas that they will be able to provide you with.
right.
Again, I don't think violence is the end all for this, and I really think that there's other ways around it.
I
There
accept. I
has to
agree.
be.
I agree.
Let me
Your
let me do
opinion.
some more. Let
I
me do some
agree.
more research